Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mortgage Broker Builder Show with your host, John Jerkovich.
So it says the meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Hello, Facebook community.
Hey, Facebook, how are you? All of the millions and millions of people that are out there. I feel like The Rock sometimes with the millions and millions of fans, or really just two or three people that actually like me, one being my mother. And but that's beside the point. So hello all, welcome to our show for the week. And today we're going to be talking about a bunch of kind of cool things and really have one thing here about using niche programs to help you go out and gather more business. So excited to talk about that and kind of just holistically bringing this all kind of back together here today with all of our programs, kind of what we're offering, what we're all about. And for those of you that are maybe new, primarily, we do a couple of things. We're in the B2B business, and we do three things. Number one is we help bankers become better. That's B2B1. We help bankers become brokers, and we help brokers become better. So all of the tools, everything that we're doing there is in and along those goals. We want to help you do more in 2024. And the whole landscape of the people that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, 50% of the mortgage industry is below average. And we don't believe that you need to be part of that 50% that's below. So we want to give you tools, tactics, things like that to help you do more. And that's kind of it. Got Josh here, a variety of other people. Anybody has questions, concerns, you have something that pops up, give us a hand raise, ask a question. I think Josh is probably can get some questions in Facebook too, if there's any over there. Or if I just explain it so well that you don't have to ask any questions, that's probably what will happen because I'm pretty sweet. At least I used to think so. Now that I'm closer to 100 than to 0, I've realized I'm probably wrong as much as I'm right, but we digress there. So Josh, how are you?
I'm good. How's it going?
It's good.
Yeah, I'm excited for today. So, if you guys are new to this, I'm Josh and I'm John's younger brother, and I am not closer to 100 than I am to 0. But that's kind of how that goes. And
we should always, when we do this, we should always pull up the picture.
The picture?
The picture. We should always it should just become part of it. We have a picture of Josh on my lap. What are we, like 12 years apart?
13. Yeah.
13 years apart. So I was like heading into high school when he was born. I'm the oldest of 7 kids. So good Catholic family back in the day. But I was a senior in high school when my youngest sister was born. And so, yeah, I heard a lot like, oh, that's a cute daughter. That's not my daughter. That's my sister. A little bit embarrassing, but that's beside the point. Josh is getting the picture, and then I'll let him get back to what he was talking about.
No, somebody actually asked me on a call last week, right when we got on. They said, "So are you his son or what?" And I was like, "No, that's not." That'd be weird if I was your son with being 13 years younger than you. But I do look younger than I am, just like you do. I'm trying to pull up this picture right now, and I know if you guys are listening to the podcast, you won't be able to see it. So I recommend going to YouTube or wherever it is that you can actually watch the video. But if you want to see just a funny picture of John with a mullet and then me sitting on his lap, so here it is. I messaged my mom the other day and I was like, do you have any photos of me and John from when we were younger? I'm probably 5 in this picture. And that would mean that John would be 18. Or whatever, if I'm doing my math. Yeah.
No, that's
good math.
We do mortgages, so math is not our strong suit.
But anyway, we've been working on a lot of different stuff here. And what we wanted to do on this call, instead of bringing on a guest like we have the past few weeks, is walk you guys through one of the tools that we created. So as we are creating the vision for Mortgage Broker Builder, where I think that we're going to start today is going over some of what we're doing and the different programs that we're building. And we're going to finish off the call reviewing our Riches and the Niches playbook. This is one of a series of playbooks that we're creating inside of what we call the LO Toolbox, which is at this moment a free program that we're giving to loan officers inside of a little community platform that we utilize called circle.so. If you want access to that, shoot us a DM or shoot us a message. We can get you in there to see and view all of these tools. But the Riches and the Niches is just one of many tools that we're creating to help you generate more leads, create or turn more leads into sales, turn more of those sales into repeat customers and referrals and relationships. ultimately helping you become part of the top 50% of the loan officers that are out there versus the lower 50%. Because like John likes to say, and it's totally true through all of time, is that 50% of people are below average, but 80% of people believe they're not. So if we apply one thing that I always look at, which is the Pareto principle, it's the idea that 80% of the loans that are being written out there are written by 20% of the loan officers. And so our job and our aim is to get you into that top 20% so you can write more business than the other 80. And, you know, ultimately, like John said at the beginning, help bankers become better, bankers become brokers, and brokers become better, B2B.
Yeah. And a lot of what we're doing here today, as I started kind of this whole business thing after 25 years working for people of, you know, helping brokers kind of launch and get started, I ended up turning away a good chunk of bankers saying that they're not ready yet. So a lot of this is just to make sure that everybody, you kind of get your poop in a group before you move on to that next step. So this kind of became a necessity in that I believe that owning your own brokerage and doing that and being an entrepreneur is just the way to go. But sometimes we lack the skills and the tools to get there. So we're going to try and give you that today. And if you go back in time, just some of the stuff that we've covered kind of up to this point. We had Mike with Red Button Media, with Hit the Red Button Media on talking about social media presence, branding. Fantastic, probably one of the best video guys in the market. We actually have a thing with him. If he's got a course that he kind of rolled out for a couple $100, there's coupon codes. So we've talked about video marketing. We had a guy, Scott Muska, on to talk about sales and building your business. We had a whole series on EDDM, which is every door direct mail, how you go about implementing and putting that in place. We had Model Match on last week about how do you identify agents using big tech to go out there and, again, aid you to go a little bit faster using those technologies. And today we're going to kind of tie it all back in with this whole Niches and the Riches program. So it becomes circular. And the one thing that I like to kind of just hammer home with people about marketing or anything like that you're doing, there are 1,000 things out there that work for somebody. You as an individual need to find the one or two things that work for you and then double down on them, right? You can't be doing this AI thing, this Facebook thing. You can't have 62 things and do it all well. Even massive companies like Rocket, you know, they maybe do 2 or 3 things really well. And they go all in on those 2 or 3 things. So just understand there is you have 24 hours in a day and you probably want to sleep. So dialing in a couple of things and doing them really, really well is important. I get told that, right? Like I have to do that myself. Everybody has a problem with, we all try to do too much.
Yeah, we do. This is coming from somebody who always has like 19 different irons in the fire. It's probably one of the biggest things that holds me back from just going all in on one thing and doing one thing really, really well. I think let's dive into a little bit of the mortgage broker builder, like what it is that we're actually doing here. But before we get started in that, I had asked you a bunch of questions a few weeks ago, and I think that it would be valuable for people to understand where you came from. You mentioned it a little while ago that you've worked with a ton of different companies. So like, John, what is your background coming into creating this and becoming an entrepreneur on your own?
So I started, I have a degree in exercise physiology. I used to be like personal training, wanted to get into pharmaceutical sales. I thought that was like the path of the future in the late 90s. Went interviewed for a bunch of positions, couldn't get hired. Told me I needed sales experience. So I had a personal training client that was, doing really well in the mortgage space. They hired me and I went and started selling loans with the intent of doing this crazy thing for 1 year to gain some sales experience. Went very quickly from making, very little money to, a 6-figure a year kind of thing. Excelled really quickly throughout what was a company called Rock Financial. It is what Rocket is today. And, moved really quickly, became a vice president there, ended up running a branch, with a couple other people, had an individual location back 2002 or 3 that did like $1 billion. So we ran a very awesome company in Michigan, did that, stuck with them, did all kinds of things there, left and have had just a variety of different jobs, helped a lot of companies grow and scale, have opened multiple brokerages, have just done a lot of stuff. at a pretty high level. My NMLS number is 6399. So I've been around, I've been doing it for a little while and have a pretty long track record of, I've never really failed at anything, made a lot of mistakes, but never failed. And I like to think that I can give somebody kind of the lessons without the scars on a lot of these things. So that's where I add my value, is I've got a lot of years of experience and just seeing what other people have done, and have, a variety of clients now that, did 20 closings last year to some clients that did as an individual, north of 225 closings. So 20 plus closings a month. I have both spectrums. So I kind of see a little bit of it all.
Yeah, I know that you've worked with some really large companies and a lot of that, but you talk to me quite frequently about this idea that the future of the loan officer industry, or the future of mortgage, is not actually in a lot of these giant brokerages that think that you can push button get mortgage, right? You've spoken a lot to me about your thoughts on what's going to be coming up, that the future of mortgage is in the small brokerage and the small relationships. And actually, it's beautiful that we're talking about riches and the niches today, because that kind of goes into that. But can you explain to me, or maybe explain to the audience, what you see happening in the mortgage space over the next year or two, as far as the small brokerage versus the behemoth Quicken Loans?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of give you like a 25-year, go back 25 years ago. A majority of the loans were done via a kind of a small brokerage. It was localized. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have this way to reach across the entire country. It was individual relationships in a small local market. You had the advent of the internet, and all those things came along, and the marketplace went from being local to national. And with that, it became very difficult, right? You had to have all of this tech, and you had to have servers, and the cost to entry was super high. And if you go back 2005, 2006, let's say 50 to 60% of all loans closed via our broker channel. Fast forward to 2009, it might have been less than, 10%. So you had the crash, you had a lot of things, you had regulation, you had licensing. It became very difficult. And what you see now is it's back to about 24, 25%. I have a belief that it's going to be roughly 50% by the end of 2025. The individual broker is going to win. You've got companies like United Wholesale pushing it hard and behind it. You even have Rocket now with Rocket TPO. They don't care where they get their 15% of the market share, as long as they get it. So the broker business is going to be something that I see continuing. The tech is better. You have all the tools before. The barrier to entry is lower than it's ever been. And if you can execute on those small things, I think that there's an opportunity for people to just, really build wealth and accomplish something bigger there. So I think we're going to see the broker channel double over the next couple of years. And I want to be helping people do that.
Well, along with that doubling, and I don't want to name any companies or anything like that, but I noticed a trend in the marketplace over the past 4 or 5 years where there were a lot of very large, very well-funded companies that were coming out, and they believed that they could remove the loan officer from the transaction. At least that was the aim, or that was the mission for the actual software, the technology, thinking that somebody would want to 100% of the time go online, fill out their information, be able to get a mortgage right then and there without talking to a person. And there were, like I said, humongous companies. You may have even worked for some, I'm not sure, that had that as their vision for the future. And again, that's where I bring up push button, get mortgage is the whole idea. But when it comes to these things, and when you're a loan officer, right, people aren't just looking for somebody to perform a transaction for you, right? Like I don't just want somebody to perform a transaction. I need advice. I need to see how this mortgage fits into my overall financial picture. It's more than just saying, I want this loan type and I'm trying to buy this house. Can you give me a pre-approval really fast? So you have this idea for loan officers of building a portable personal brand, and this thing that you keep calling the loan officer of the future. So I think maybe you can just describe what that is, because that's what we're trying to create through the Mortgage Broker Builder. We're trying to show people how to become the loan officer of the future. So can you just tell the audience, I guess, what does the loan officer of the future look like with this, understanding that there's going to be a lot of mortgage brokers that are going to be leading the charge on these things?
Well, I think that, and just to digress really quickly, as a broker, just one thing, if you get somebody on the phone and you're talking to them and you're building a relationship. If you're running a company of one and you don't have this like large C-suite of people and salaries and things, you should almost never lose a deal. So the individual broker, right? If they can get the person, right, making $500 is better than making $0. And they get to make that business decision at that level. It's not like, so the broker, if they can get to the clients, they have an opportunity to make money every single day. They don't have to lose a deal. So that's a very critical piece. But I just see if CRMs now, right? So your client, your database is something that's easier today than ever to run. And you have databases that are things called Instagram as a database for you, TikTok, Facebook. These are all databases, right? They can aggregate clients for you to have business moving forward. You no longer need your big company behind you to do that. So I see every single loan officer that excels in the future having a database. So they're going to have and maintain their own database of clients that are exclusive to them and not their company. So that's thing number one. They're going to have a brand. People want to deal with people. They don't want to deal with, whoever. And I know today for a fact that when a real estate agent refers somebody to a banker, those clients go and look at their own personal brand. They're going to look at what you're doing on TikTok. Are you drunk, like shooting bottle rockets at people on a Friday night? They may not do business with you, right? Like it's fun. Maybe somebody does, right? You got to pick and choose. Like you just understand you get the client that's into being drunk shooting bottle rockets. Maybe not the best person to close the loans at a high clip. But so they're going to have databases. They're going to have a brand that is them. And that's why people transact with them. The name on the back of the jersey will become more important than the name on the front of the jersey. There's actually a woman that crushes it on YouTube. Her name is Jennifer Beeson. She's got like 80,000 followers. #1 VA originator in the country. She's got 80,000 followers. She works for Guaranteed Rate, but I guarantee that she can go to any company and her clients are going to follow her. They don't do business with Guaranteed Rate. They do business with her. So, right. So that's the power of building your own personal brand. You get 100,000 followers, call up Ron Lionheart at Cross Country Mortgage. He's wheeling and dealing to get you over there, right? You now hold the cards. It's not flipped around. So database, brand, and then little bits and pieces of tech. And the sky's the limit. You no longer need a massive army behind you. So that is the loan officer of the future will have those things, and they're going to educate clients and they're going to walk them all the way through a funnel. It's exciting for some. And if you're sitting around, waiting for somebody else to do it for you, it's probably a little scary.
Yeah, I think the database and the brand thing are super important in today's world because that's kind of the world that I'm in. I was a loan officer for about 5 years back in the day. I was following in your footsteps a little bit from a distance. And, I still look back, I'm like, man, I still have all the data from every client that I worked with back then. It's in an old Outlook file that I probably can't access, or I need somebody to actually hack in order to get into it. But man, that data and those people that I did transactions with would very likely be buying more houses and doing more things and doing more transactions had I stayed in touch with them and had I built a personal brand and had I maintained those relationships. And I think that's actually the third thing. So you said, #1, having your own database, #2, having your own brand. But #3, I think, is relationships, because relationships, like the number of businesses that I've talked to on a marketing side saying, oh yeah, we don't need marketing. Everything that we do is word of mouth and referral. Still to this day, even with the size of Google and the size of Facebook, which are 100% paid off of ad revenue, that's how Facebook makes its money, and selling data on the backside, but we won't get into that. Is only about 20 to 30% of the market. Still, about 60% of business that's done today is done through word of mouth and referral relationships. And so today we're talking about riches and the niches, which is exactly about relationship creation and how to go about that. And so that third element, right? Like, let's say you've nailed your brand, or at least you're working on it. You're starting to post on social media, and you're starting to maintain your database. You're keeping track of your customers, calling old ones and things like that. But generating relationships is going to be the next step. So maybe, do you want to just dive right into the riches and the niches, or?
No, 100%. Yeah, it just, and the one thing that I would just say there, a last kind of point is, imagine somebody that worked at a place like a Rocket Mortgage and they originated, 300 loans a year for 25 years, how large their database would be today if they were still, I mean, that's the biggest flaw that most people made is no place did they ever keep it. And it was for a variety of reasons, right? Companies scared you. If you keep the data, you're going to get, arrested, or we're going to sue you. Like now it's public data. I can go back and find every loan that closed with any person in the US in 2017. I can get all the names in a matter of minutes, right? We covered that last week. But so had they maintained those databases and been mailing to it consistently, making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, every single year would just be a given. It wouldn't even be something that they'd have to work on. But yeah, let's dive into to the niches and the riches here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And so if you're listening to this on a podcast, I would tell you to probably jump on over to YouTube. But
yeah, let me interject there really quickly. So we're going to review one of our playbooks right now. It's called Riches and the Niches. And if you go to themortgagebrokerbuilder.com, again, that's themortgagebrokerbuilder.com, and click on the menu item that says Toolbox, you can find all of our really cool tools. I'll also share a link in the show note captions on Spotify as well as on YouTube to this show, to the Riches and the Niches playbook, if you want to download it and work along with us. But we will try in this to also make it valuable without seeing it for our podcast audience. But again, go to themortgagebrokerbuilder.com, click on the toolbox, and you can get access to this and every other really cool tool that we're doing, and also join our circle community. So that was my shameless plug.
Awesome. Thank you for the plug. I don't do a good job of doing plugs. So niches and the riches, you should see our little fancy thing there. I'm just going to kind of like blow through this. We're not going to hit on everything. You can go in and get it, but do definitely want to kind of touch base here and believe if you can execute on even just a part of this, you will be able to go out and, find new business. So what you're going to learn here, essentially is how to leverage niche programs, how to ask. And we all have them, how to leverage niche programs, how to ask for advice versus going out and asking for opinions, how to use we groups. So there's an actual thing of how you can use different words, different we groups to create associations, a process of building out to where you're the go-to person, a framework where you look at your real estate agents, not as some thing that sends you business, but actually as you view them just like a client. It's literally the same as one of your clients that you're working with. And then ultimately how to ask for business without going out and asking for business. Doing the cold call to an agent and saying, do you have a deal to send me today? It's just not super effective any longer. They get that call all the time and it doesn't go anywhere. And I hear it over and over from people. I make cold calls. I call on agents. It doesn't work. And I actually think that a lot of it doesn't work just because of the approach that you're going about it with. It's like saying I go to the gym and it doesn't work. But if you just go there and, sit, it doesn't work. So that's what you're going to learn. Kind of our core principles are this. And one of them here is often there's a quote that says, we all admire the wisdom of people who come to us for advice. And as I look at this, there's a couple of different things here, right? Principle number one, when you ask somebody for advice versus their opinion, they become vested in what you're trying to do. So, and it becomes an ego thing, right? Like if you're coming to me for advice, I puff up my chest. Oh yeah, I've got the answers for you. Secondly, you end up sharing some common interests. The third thing there is you allow yourself to become an authority. We all want to be respected and seen as an authority. Again, it helps me out. And I can think of a couple of different things that just go to kind of our human core. As people, we want to help out other people. It's kind of like part of what we want to do. It makes us feel good. And when you can go and help somebody else, you actually get a dopamine hit through them. I'm just going to share a quick story. I've got my best friend for my entire life. His son is a musician. And I've been like helping him, right? Like I have no idea. And I don't even know if I'm helping, but in my mind, I see that I'm helping him. And he's come to me for advice on a couple of things. I'm super vested in seeing how well he does because he's asked for advice. And once you give somebody advice, you want to follow up on it. You want to see how they're doing. And when they do well, guess what you get in return? It's actually kind of selfish. But if I see him implementing an idea that I gave him that he asked for advice on, and he's getting like a bunch of likes on his music, guess who also gets a little dopamine hit? This guy. So when you reach out to somebody, always understand if you're asking for advice versus their opinion, it's going to have a different weight on the back end. So something that's just kind of good there. So core principle number 1, ask people for their advice versus opinion. Principle number 2 that is super powerful is we all associate with being part of a group. And the more that you can do this, the more likely somebody is to come into your camp. So if you can do things like you share a common struggle. After 9/11, you saw our country come together like no place else, right? We were sharing a common struggle. Watch Alabama fans come football season, how they pull together. Pritchard, you're on here, right? So like they come together for a common cause, or we share a common enemy. Anytime you can like all be against somebody, you can rally around. We share a common connection. Look at people that went to, whatever college it is, right? They share that common connection. They're more apt to. If you went to the University of Michigan and you get to choose between working with somebody that went to the University of Michigan or Michigan State, or we'll say Ohio State, all things being equal, 100% of the time, those Michigan people will deal with Michigan people, right? Because they hate Ohio State. Anytime you can share stories and create a bond again to where we are in a group together. And if you can take that and then build it into a partnership, hey, we went to the same college. We share this struggle. The industry is this, it's that. We're now all together and it's way easier. So remember to try and work those little things into the conversations that you have, create those connections to be part of a we group. So here's the process that we have for the riches and the niches. Thing number 1 is target and identify the agents that you want to go after in here. And what can you do to add value? So the one thing that I would say here, we've got a kind of a process of doing this, but don't go to an agent that lives in a large, metropolitan city and try and pitch them your USDA loan. Or if you see somebody that does, all of their marketing is on first-time home buyers, I don't know, right? Like try and find something that works with them that lines up with your goals and what you're trying to do. So identify the agents that you'd like to target. Thing number 2, we want to identify the offer. What programs are we going to take to them? So whether that be, whatever it is, we've got a lot of programs, and we'll talk about what makes a good program. Coming up with your prospect list. We had Model Match on last week, which is a great place. I don't think if you've been a loan officer for 4 or 5 years, I don't know that you have to today make a strict cold call. There's enough ways that you can get to making a warm call, at least somebody that has some affiliation with you. Like making a cold call should not be something you have to do. How do we go about beginning the actual outreach? A relationship blueprint. We've got something here in the back of how do you go about targeting agents? How do you go about taking them from cold to warm in and of itself? The work, 20 dials a day, keep the bill collectors at bay is just interesting, right? Like some of this, you just have to go out and execute on it day in, day out. Tracking, some sort of CRM, and then follow up to stay engaged. So we'll go to just kind of the target. 1 and 3 are kind of one and the same, and we'll kind of hit those. But what I would start with is just coming up with, and Josh, if you got anything to add as we kind of go through here.
There's one thing I would add. It's just to back up a little bit. When we look at this process, right? One of the things that I think holds a lot of people back from reaching out to real estate agents is like, how do I have something new to tell them? Do I have something valuable to offer them? Or am I just trying to call them and whether it's a real estate agent or an insurance partner, or whoever it is, whoever it is that you want to partner with, When you look at the target and the offer, what we're saying here basically to back up two steps is when you call them, ask them for advice. Don't ask them for opinions or anything else. It is so much more powerful to call them and be like, hey man, here's what I'm trying to do. I have this new first time home buyer program and I just need some advice. How would you go about getting this in front of real estate agents like yourself?
Was that a question?
No, well, if I was calling a real estate agent like that, that's the way that I would probably word it and say, look, how would you go about getting this program and this offer in front of real estate agents who don't know about it? And 9 times out of 10, like that removes a lot of the friction. But also, if they haven't heard about it themselves, they'll be like, well, tell me about it. I'm curious. And then they'll also give you advice on how to get in touch with other people and want to give you referrals to other people. But that is what we meant by the asking for advice instead of opinions. And then to bring it in a little bit more, the cold to warm is simply finding that unique we group. And so it could be that you guys are both Michigan fans. It could be that you both graduated from the same school. It could be that you're both in the same community. It could be that you're just both loan officers, or your we group could even be people in the housing industry in general, right? You say, look, man, it's really hard for us. These things are really difficult. Gaining new business hasn't been the easiest thing for us, has it? And so as soon as you create that we group, it makes this outreach and these frameworks for this outreach significantly better. So as you're targeting these people, you understand the offer and you start creating your list, it gives you the way to speak to them in a way that doesn't seem salesy. And that was I think that was the 8th bullet of something that we were going over, is like how to ask for the sale, or how to ask for the business without asking for the business. And this is how you do it.
Yeah, all that. We're done.
Did I
No, not at all. I'm giving you a hard time. You're my brother. That's what I get to do. No, 100%. Right. So, and we're going to like kind of delve into each one of these a little bit deeper as we kind of hit that. But Josh just did kind of like a holistic approach here. And one of the biggest struggles that I see over and over from people calling on agents is, you need to do it. You want to do it. I don't think that this is a thing like bankers that aren't out calling on agents or doing this. It's not because you don't want to or you're lazy. Like people like to say, oh, you just make the calls. Like, I don't think it has to do with that at all. It's that you don't really know what to do. Nobody's ever really taught you, right? You've had a manager or somebody tell you like, you should call on agents, you should do this, but nobody's given you the how to actually do it and the why behind it. So hopefully, if nothing else, at the end of this, you have a framework to like kind of springboard yourself to where you feel a little bit more comfortable to go out and make your first 5 calls, make your first 10 calls, and you'll get better at it, right? With reps, this thing gets better. You're not going to call one and land it, but I can only imagine how frustrating it would be to just, pick up, like a thing and just start randomly calling people without knowing what to say or how to do it. Because when you wing it, usually good things don't happen. So we'll kind of move to the next one, and hopefully we can circle back and touch on all these points. So the first thing is really simple. Create a list of 10 agents or partners that you'd like to work with, preferable with some shared interest, something. We did this show last week with Model Match, where you can go in and identify agents that you've actually done business with. So that's not a cold call. That's not even a warm call. That's like a hot call. Hey, we've actually done business in the past. You were the buyer's agent, whatever. So identify a list, and we're just going to start with 10. I think if you can do 10, to do 20, to do 100 of these is pretty easy. But find 10 agents that you're going to call. Really simple. I would then go and I would check out what kind of business they're doing, right? Like, are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, websites? Like, what are they actually doing? You don't want to put a lot of time into an agent that closed 2 houses in the last 2 years. And I don't care how, there's a lot of people out there saying they're the number 1 agent in whatever county, but that's the number 1 agent in that county selling loans to their sister named Susie, right? They're the number 1 agent selling loans to their sister named Susie, but they suck at everything else that is real estate. Like, don't put a lot of effort into that person. So identify clients that you want to work with that can actually propel your business forward. Figure out what they're doing, spend a couple of minutes on them. And then the next thing here is, okay, their social. Create your list. Okay. What's this slide? What makes a good program? So I'm going to hit the list first, but there's essentially three kind of prospects that you have. A cold prospect, somebody you know absolutely nothing about. That's just, it's a name, phone number. It's somebody that you've seen online. A warm is somebody that may know you, know of you, know something about you. It's not like a hot lead, or it's not like your mom or your brother, but this is somebody that has some acquaintance with you. If you were to call them, they would a little bit understand. And then the last thing here is this is somebody that's hot, somebody that you've actually done business with. Like the chance of getting these phone calls returned, the hot client all the way down to the cold client, the hot one's going to pick up more. And you'll see this if you're like out on LinkedIn or those places. You'll get a lot of people trying to be warm that are cold, and you'll get them popping in and they'll be messaging you. Hey, I can see you follow Grant Cardone. I'd love to connect with you. They're trying to take cold to warm and use that we're connected through Grant Cardone kind of thing, or through Alex Hormozi or whatever it is. They try to make that connection to create a warm thing there. So always try and start with hot. And then if you run out of hot, work to cold. But we're also going to give you a way that you start nurturing cold today to become warm. So in 30 days, you're actually still only calling on warm leads. Where do you find them? All right. This is your cell phone, CRM, email, things like Model Match, MMI, some of those large data aggregators out there. Warm leads, social media, email, Facebook, even Facebook groups could become warm leads, right? Hey, we're both part of this real estate investing group. And then just cold calls, right? You know where to go out to get cold calls. Lists are super easy to come up with. Then, so I've identified the agents. So hopefully they're all in the hot bucket. Now I want to take that agent and I want to figure out what is a good program for them. And here's some things that make up a good program. And calling and saying this today, we close loans in 10 days. There's nothing special about that. Everybody can close loans in 10 days. You're a broker. You have some of the best rates out there. Everybody says that. I return phone calls on the weekend. Everybody says that. Like back a long time ago, having power windows in a car mattered. But like no longer on the Ford ad, when you're looking at the new Mustang, they're not talking about having power windows. That's just kind of become the ante to play. So don't have your presentation be the ante to play. So here's some things that make up a good niche program. And we've covered a bunch of these on different episodes. So we had a thing with Dan at American Heritage where he was talking about DSCR, bank statement, 1099 loans. They'll do bank statement loans at 10% down. They've got some cool things over there. We covered that. We had Peter on with Arrival Home Loans. They've got a bridge product that's incredible. You can take the equity from two homes, blend it together, actually purchase your new home with nothing down. If you've got enough equity in your old one, they'll even give you cash to stage a house. So a super cool program. It may not work for everybody, but there's one with Peter and Arrival Home Loans where we talk about not your parents' bridge loan. That's an awesome niche program. We had Dale Dykes on a little special where he talked about the CDFI loan. That's a community development program where if you have 25% down, you don't list income on your taxes. It can be pure cash. Give me 25% down and 12 months of reserves. I don't care if you work in the cannabis business. I don't care if you haven't filed tax returns in 76 years. They can do a loan for you. Agents don't know about this. NAR recently did a study, and somewhere like 70% of people still believe they need to put 20% down. So if clients believe that, your agents also believe it. So give them these niche programs. And if you can help them sell 2 or 3 more homes in a year, like they're going to be thankful for you. So here's the things. A niche program. Is it novel? Is it newsworthy? If you start hearing people talk about stuff, start reaching out about that. Down payment assistance programs. Got a gentleman I work with in Minnesota that's got like 5 or 6 clients closing on some Minnesota down payment assistance program. And he's crushing it with it. He's got, I think, 4 or 5 closings on it alone this month. He's running one play and running that one play consistently. And it's very similar to this. And he reaches out and he calls talking about a thing called HomeBot. So, right, he's using a niche program to get in front of a client. Focus on the problem that you're solving for their audience, creating education. So you're educating them, become known as the expert in that area, and make sure that it's the right client, right fit. Right. I talked about that before. Right. Like make sure that you're not talking about a USDA loan with somebody that lives, in Manhattan. They probably don't care. But if you can go through and check these things, you now have a program, and different agents might have different things that you call out to them about. And you can even see, again, when we go back to that big data section, inside of like a model match or something, agent that you target, you can see how many loans they close on a conventional thing. You can see how many they close FHA. You can see VA. You can see their product mix and who they're doing business with. So that gives you, where do I need to go? What would be the ideal niche program for those agents that you targeted? We already talked about creating your list. So now we're going to get into, and Josh started to talk about this a little bit, the actual framework of how you go about making these calls. And hopefully this pulls all those parts back in. So the first thing, I would not come out and write, even just in the hello, I would not come out and say, hello, this is John calling with such and such, mortgage company. I wouldn't even say who you're calling with. Because what happens? You're going to get hung up. Some of the people are just going to hang up on you at that point because they think you're just calling them to tell them about the 7-day close that you can do. So I would just keep it very simple. They answered the phone. Don't ask if now's a good time. If it wasn't, they would not have picked up the phone. So that's the first thing. Just a very basic hello. You, and this is whether they're hot, warm, whatever, right? Your client falls in here. You're making these calls. And you're making the call, let them know that it's kind of outside of your comfort zone. You're not comfortable doing this. Most agents have went out and they've done cold calls themselves. This is your first introduction into becoming part of the We Group. And they understand if you actually identify it that like, hey, this isn't what I do every day. I appreciate your time, right? Become part of the We Group and understand this is a struggle. The next thing that I think is super important. So you've gotten past the hello, they're still on the phone. You've let them know that you're uncomfortable. You want to lower their guard. And I think that this is super important. The quicker you can let them know that you're asking for advice and you're not here to sell them something, is the sooner they'll start listening to you. Because up until this point, all they're trying to do is wait for you to give them a long enough pause to say, I'm all set, and hang up the phone. So you want to get that out very quickly. And I call it the Walmart principle, right? When you like walk into Walmart and that person's handing you a cart, you need a cart, but the first thing you say is no. No, I don't need a cart. So, you got to get past take off your blue vest. You're no longer the greeter. You want to get past that point. So lower their guard. And then you want to let them know, that you probably understand they already work with a couple other lenders. Again, lowering their guard. You're not here trying to sell them something, and you're here looking to try and get their advice as an expert in the area. So we lower their guard. And this is not a be all script. I just want the framework to be there for you to put it in your words. I don't even know that I would say it exactly like this, but this is English and probably a better way to say it maybe than what I would. Then you want to let them know the why. Here's why I'm calling you. I checked out your stuff online. It looks like you do a lot of this, and this. It's awesome that you juggle being a mom. You get your kids to soccer practice and you still sell a bunch of real estate, right? Kind of elevate them, right? You've lowered their guard. Now you're going to elevate them up, make them feel special. A little bit about them. It's not just a cold call. I put in here, father of 3, still selling homes. I was hoping to get your advice on a new product that we just rolled out that I think could be great for whatever their target market area is, but wanted to know from a realtor's point of view, what advice you would have for me about this product. So what have you done for this client so far? You've lowered their guard. They don't feel that they're being sold. You're now have positioned them higher and you're asking them for advice, right? So like kind of like the ultimate dopamine hit. Then you quickly explain the program that you've got. Hey, we've got this program that allows people, like, I know where you're at. There's a lot of like rural areas there. I know a lot of people have been out, the cannabis industry is big here in Michigan, and people run into clients that can't get loans all the time. So maybe I'd be like, hey, I see you sell a lot of high-end homes. Do you ever run into people that, can't qualify because they're in the cannabis industry? Well, we've got a program that doesn't look at their job at all. So a quick explainer about the problem you're going to solve. And this is one place that people kind of go wrong. They want to become the product matrix here. If they got a 740, like you almost sound like an auctioneer, 740 FICO score, 80 times, and you start throwing out a bunch of stuff. Don't do that. Just talk about the potential problem that they've run into clients. I've listened and sat in on calls where people start talking about their niche program and the agent says, oh, you know what? I just had somebody last month. Would it work for this? That's usually what happens if your niche program's any good. The agent actually has somebody, a deal they lost in the last 3 months that fits that criteria. And if you get there, like, okay, you've got them like on the hook. That hook is set. And now it's just a question of reeling them in. But again, it was all the work that went into that beforehand to know where they're at, kind of loans they sell, right? It all builds on top of each other. Here's an example. I'm not even going to read that. It's just down payment programs, but there are so many different niche programs out there today. And I'm sure if you're a broker, you've probably got access to 5 or 10. And keep in mind, Chase, your banks don't have these programs. Your large national lenders, you as a broker are positioned better than anyone else to be able to deliver these programs back. And you can carve out, 10 closings as a broker, making $5,000 a pop. Like that's a really good living in today's industry. That doesn't land you just below, above the Mendoza line at average. You're making $500,000 a year today doing this job, probably puts you in the top 5% of all loan officers in the country today. So we go from there. You quickly explain the program. You want to ask them a couple of short questions, right? Again, you've been asking for their advice, their opinion as an expert. Like, do you see a program like this having a spot in your marketplace? Is it worth even focusing on, right? Ask them the question, let them give you that advice back. And then you can ask for a close. And this is another thing. You'll get a really good feel of where this is at this point. If they're asking questions about the client that they couldn't do, like it's not even really a close isn't even needed. You now are like in the game. And that's all that you want as a loan officer. I don't want this program to land you agents. What I ultimately do, what I wanted to do is open up you to be able to get to the point where you get to talk about the things that you know and have a conversation. Because at this point, it's right. It's like we've done the dating app part. We got you together. Now go and like do the dating part on your own. Like that part I can't control, but we want to make that connection and give you the tools to get there. But you can also ask them for a close without asking for a close. And what that would be is, do you know a couple of agents that this might work for? You're not closing them to send you a deal. You're asking them if they know somebody else. And I found that to be pretty powerful, and it works also well when you're trying to reach out to family and friends. It's always awkward to ask a family member for a referral or to do business with you. If you're calling them saying like, hey, I just started this business, I'm doing this and this. Do you know anybody that I might be able to help? That's a lot different than asking them, do you need a loan yourself? So always remember that you can close without actually closing. And one of 3 things are going to happen if you make it all the way to this point. Thing number 1, they'll be interested in a bigger conversation. So you just set up your coffee, a meeting, whatever it is. And this, if you get to this point, often this is where it goes. So that's thing number 1. Great. You set that up. Thing number 2, they give you a couple of names of people in their office. Oh, Jimmy deals with a lot of those people, or Sarah has a lot of clients that might fit that. You should reach out to them. What did Sarah just become? She was cold. You're now getting a referral. She's now warm or hot. So again, they've moved up, and then you just rinse and repeat with Sarah. No thanks, right? They got nothing. They got no names. You can at least close to where, hey, is it okay if I reach back out to you as new programs come out? Maybe I have something in the future. They're going to say yes to one of these. And if that's it, they're just saying yes to you being able to follow up with them so they can get off the phone with you today. So it's a no close, but you get the yes. And then I would put them in a database. I would start sending them out mail. You're already liking them, following them, doing those kind of things on social media. And if you stay in front of them and are consistent, there's a good chance that these people will end up sending you business at some point anyways. So the next thing is database and engage. We're running like close here on time. But once you get any of these clients, if you make it to this point, we've talked about having a database at the beginning of this. Every agent that you have any interaction with, one of three things should happen. They want to have a greater conversation and begin working with you. They know other people that you can work with, or they'll allow you to put them in their database. So one of the three things should happen. If you get them on the phone, something good should happen with it. If you do get them in a database, which I definitely recommend, right? Like every person needs to make it into your CRM, and you need to be connecting with them across social media. But some things that are really good: set up a monthly newsletter at a bare minimum quarterly to go out to all of your agents. You can talk about success stories, things that other clients have had success with, share stories, industry news, right? We just had jobs numbers come out, a bunch of inflation data. We saw rates jump up about 0.25%. Like, that's important to understand. Get it out there if you understand that, or just steal somebody else's information and send it out, but continue to educate them. Always be touching on new products, website, blogs, even if it's from other people's site. You should be curating things out there and creating content in around you and your personal brand. Share posts with them for engagement, and then always be sharing about you, your products, your company. Just stay in front of these people. You never know when something's going to stick with them and they decide to come back and do business with you. So they will find you when they have a client. Quickly here, this is just an agent blueprint, and it's really more just how you can connect with people online. There is a method to the madness if you want to build a business, and I would recommend you spending like 1 hour of your day out working on social media every single day if your goal is to build a personal brand. But you want to go out and you want to follow people. You want to like their posts. You want to comment on their posts. Don't do it all in the same day. Like, start a gradual progression. Wait a couple of days, right? You don't want to be creepy. Start reposting things of theirs, right? So here you're just following them. You're liking, commenting, begin reposting something. And anybody that's on social media, if you see somebody that's consistently reposting your stuff, if you've got LinkedIn Premium, you can go and see who views your profile, repost somebody's stuff just out of the blue. And I'm going to say about 95% of the time, they're viewing your profile within 24 hours. So they want to know, who is this? Why are they sending my stuff? Why are they amplifying my product? And they're super grateful. So you got to interact, engage with them. You get to this point where you've reposted stuff, you can send them a DM. You actually now have taken them from cold to warm. Visit their business, understand what they're doing, leave them a review, keep promoting their product. If you promote somebody's product enough and like them enough, when you do get in a position to give them a call, they're going to be far more apt to pick up your call. So understand that you take cold calls to warm calls. It's actually something that you actively do. And you can go out today, and I guarantee if you identify 50 agents in your market that you want to work with, you work this blueprint over the next 30 days, and you DM all 50 of those agents on day 30, after you've done this, I bet that 25% of them will reply to your DM. You're going to get a 1 in 4 hit rate if you follow this thing with all of those people. You could DM all 100 of them today, and I don't know that 5% of them reply. So you got to warm these people up. And then from there, we're at 56 minutes. If you got questions, like if you want more help, if you anything about this at all, I love talking about this stuff. I love seeing people, right? I'm invested in it. When I give my advice, I want to make sure that it works and that people do well, right? I want to reciprocate. I want to make sure that people crush it out there, because ultimately my business is purely predicated on the fact, can the people that I help and give advice to, can they deliver? If they can't, then I need to go and do something else. Maybe I should drive Uber. I don't know, but I need to do something else. So if you want to have a greater conversation, you want to understand this better, definitely reach out. And we've got a bunch of different marketing things, and you can start combining all of these things. And the toughest thing today in the mortgage space, a lot of people understand what an FHA loan is, a VA loan, how to get somebody qualified, how to price out a loan, what DTI is. Our biggest problems as an industry today that I see after talking to, I don't know, hundreds, maybe more brokers and individual loan officers, we're struggling right now with taking leads. So like likes on Facebook and stuff, turning them into leads. We've actually got something coming out about how do you convert a like to a lead. So that's one area, is just building your social brand, getting out there, doing it. Everybody knows they need to. We'll include in the show notes, there's Mike from Red Button Media created a video marketing marvels course. It's $300. He gives anybody that has a coupon code from us $100 discount. It's $200, but it will walk you through like making video, branding, just client avatars. There's some cool stuff there. If it's something you're into, we'll put that in the notes for you can go and get that. Model Match, we talked about that a little bit today. They have a program where you can literally go through, watch our thing from last week, but we've got a $150 off where they waive like your origination fee. Again, it's nothing in it for me. Like, it's just a place for you to go and get data, but that is a great way for you to start identifying these agents, figure out who to target. We've now given you the kind of the tactical of, okay, I've identified them. I'm starting to get my social dialed in. Where do I go? How do I actually make these phone calls? I would make them yourself. And if you want to go through and like, hey, will this thing work on this script? What about this? Here's what I'm thinking about. I am in the business of serving you. So feel free to reach out. Like, I don't mind doing that. And then the last thing, if you haven't joined like our groups and those kind of things, join the Facebook group. There's, if you're on here, you probably got enrolled in our Circles community, but we're going to kind of take that to another level. And we've got some really cool things coming out. We've got a course for first-time home buyers that, like, it's, I don't know, it's big. It's not like one page. Like, this is a real actual course. It's not some like 5-page thing that's elaborate. It goes into things like when to opt out for credit trigger, like you name it, it's in there. It's well thought out. A huge value. We've got an app coming. That's a financial fitness app where your clients are going to be able to go in and get their credit score, get budgeting tools, figure out like a whole bunch of stuff. That's probably 3-4 weeks out until we have that. We've got a bunch of different incentives. We've got an insurance company now that if you refer over there, they'll actually give you as a broker money on every referral. So you're actually kind of selling them a lead. It's $40, $50, but it's $40 or $50 that you wouldn't. Your clients are already going out and getting insurance. So we're kind of building out this whole suite of products to where you're going to be able to have the stuff that the big boys have as a small individual. So if you want to talk about any of those things, feel free to reach out. And then the last tidbit is we all have a bandwidth constraint. Find the 2 or 3 things that are most important to move your business forward over the next, 90 days. Get those dialed in before you sign up with 2 or 3 other things. One of the biggest problems I see people doing is they spread themselves too thin and then nothing gets done. So we talked about that at the beginning. And if you want to have a call to like figure out what are things you could do, you want to become a broker at some point, like I'd love to have that conversation. And we're just here to help. Josh, you got anything to add? I know I babbled a little bit, and without a guest, I'm just talking a lot.
Oh, I mean, that's about it. And most of these things you can find on the mortgagebrokerbuilder.com. You can join our circle community. You can go to the toolbox and find the tool downloads and the actual PDF that we are reviewing here on this call today. And also, we are in the process of launching a partners page as well. It's not on there quite yet, but that's where you're going to be able to find things such as the Video Marketing Marvels course, the Buy a Home University, a lot of these other things that we eventually package together in our core training program, the LO Foxhole. So you can join the free LO Toolbox. And then we look forward to just supporting you guys to be the LOs of the future.
Yeah. And here's, so some big things, right? We've got these blogs. There's I don't know, there's probably 50 of them on here, different things, but not your parents' bridge loan. That's talking about, so there is a lot of really cool things in there. Check it out. There's just a lot of stuff. We've been heavy building over here, and we'd like to have you all do more in 2024. And that's it. Have a fantastic day. Sell well, and let's all do more in 2024. I appreciate you all.
All right.
And if you can, one last thing, if you get any value out of the stuff that we do, if you could just share it with other people, right? Like I can go out and buy, spend money on Facebook ads. I'd rather just keep this stuff free for now and let's keep dumping it out there. But you spreading the word is definitely something that's helpful for us. So we can do more cool stuff with the more people that know about it. So that's it. I appreciate you all. Have a great day. Reach out if you have questions.